This is the story of a girl, Terry Giannoffrio, who is an exceptional dancer. Her story begins when she wears a tacky costume and does makeup for the stage performance. After a while, her whole crew is called upon the stage and gives a dance performance. She moves well as a dancer, but she faces a tragic accident. While dancing, she fractures her ankle in a move that causes her excruciating pain, and she is quickly moved to a hospital for surgery. After months, we see she is back on her feet. Though her steps are still unsteady, she still takes multiple auditions for stage dance and gets rejected each time due to her damn foot. In one audition, she introduces herself and her family, who has a pig butchering business in their hometown. The merciless judge asks her to perform the step repeatedly, which resulted in her ankle injury. At first, she does this step seamlessly, but with frequent trials. She twists her ankles. The producer of the Broadway production, Alan Marchand, is also there, and he mocks her by asking her to imitate pig movements, but she declines him, saying she is not desperate to go this far and humiliate herself. After an audition, she takes pain medications excessively to reduce ankle pain. Here, she meets her friend Annie, who is also a dancer, and she has aced the audition. She suggests Terry go back to her hometown until she recovers completely. But Terry wants to make her name and earn fortunes. She seems to have some other plans. She sees Alan and follows him to his apartment building, Branford. She wants to meet him personally, but the receptionist does not let her go. For some reason, she starts to have blurry vision as she is going to faint. She leaves the building in poor health and meets an old couple who take her to their home. After having a sound sleep, she goes to join the sweet old people for breakfast, where they introduce each other. She explains to the old lady how she wants to come on stage again and she is struggling in her own way. Granny advises her that it's not our falls that define us, it's what we do afterward. The old couple takes her to show her a well-furnished apartment and allows her to stay here free of cost until she recovers. Thus, Terry moves into her new apartment in the building same as Alan. While organizing things, she finds a shoe stuck inside a cupboard and has a tag that says Joan. At the same time, Granny enters her party and Terry shows her this shoe. Granny tells her this shoe belongs to her last tenant and throws it in the trash, but Terry quietly picks it up again. Granny has actually come to invite her to a cocktail party at Alan's apartment. After the invitation, she quickly takes her leave. Terry goes to Alan's apartment and learns the old couple can't make it for some reason. Alan gives her a drink and meanwhile takes her interview with why she is desperate to dance. She exposes that her mother died when she was young and his father fell into pieces. To run away from her sad memories, she dances and engages her mind in movements. After the interview, she takes a sip of the drink he gave her, and suddenly her vision blurs as dizziness takes over. She tries to get up and leave, but as she reaches the door, Alan forcefully pushes her into a room leading underground. Surprisingly, Alan and the old couple are already there. Alan dances with dizzy Terry, and then some people lead her to a bed that locks her hands to restrain her movements. Everything is happening like she is in her dreams. Suddenly, her blanket is pulled down, and she sees a creepy monster showing up and approaching her legs. She shrieks loudly, and the next moment she opens her eyes in Alan's bed. She does not seem to remember anything, so Alan tells her that she slept with him. Moreover, he has decided to take her in for the chorus of the dance performance for what she auditioned. She joins the practice the next day and dances with her staggered leg. A blonde takes her notice and verbally mocks her for not dragging them down. Later, Terry notices marks on her arm, so she goes to the bathroom and finds out she has bite marks all over her body. Back at her apartment, Granny invites her to meet another Granny, Lily Gardenia. She has prepared an ointment which she applies to Terry's ankle and gives her a whole bottle for further treatment. She sleeps calmly in her bed. Suddenly, she opens her eyes and sees a horny figure standing next to her bed. But it's a frightening dream. She actually opens her eyes and there is no one around her. She gets up and, surprisingly, she can move well, and there's no pain in her ankle thanks to the ointment Granny gave her. She joins the training and gives an outstanding performance. Terry and Annie both visit a Christmas party thrown by the sweet old couple. Here they give Terry a Christmas present, which is a cute jacket and a necklace of good luck. Terry seems quite emotional to receive for the first time. Terry takes Annie into her room and gives her a present. It's a pretty cute scarf that Annie always wanted but could not buy. They both enjoy the night while dancing, but suddenly, Terry looks in the mirror and sees Satan holding her belly. She shouts and takes off her jacket, but there's no one. The next morning, Terry gets up feeling nauseated and vomits in the bathroom. She goes to the nearest hospital and finds out she's pregnant with a child of Alan. She fills in Annie about her pregnancy and does not plan to tell Alan yet. Giving birth to a child will be the end of her career. Blonde rival seems to be eavesdropping on her. She gives her advice to drink bleach for miscarriage or have someone push her through the stairs. It instills Terry's anger and she pushes Blondie in revenge for mocking her. Terry goes to the laundry for cloth washing. Blondie's advice is still stuck in her mind and she looks at detergent with wishful eyes. Suddenly, the door of the machine opens and takes her attention. She goes to shut it and runs the machine. She is tensed to the extent that she starts seeing a baby in the clothes washed over. At the same time, she sees a reflection of a horny figure and looks back to find there is no one else. Thank God, another girl comes to the laundry and lowers down her anxiety level. In the dressing room, Terry sits on a stool and hears the cracking sound of an egg underneath her. It is Blondie's doing. She has played a prank on her together with her friend. Before she says any bullshit, Alan enters the room. He nags Blondie for damaging the company's property and orders her to help Terry clean the mess she created. Just as when she cleans the stool, a call for practice comes, so they leave the room except Terry and Alan. Alan uses a napkin to clean Terry's pretty dress while talking with her. He already knows she is pregnant with his baby and encourages her to keep him while succeeding in her career. She returns to her floor and sees the door to her apartment is open. It's an old couple who intruded into her apartment using a spare key. They already know she is pregnant thanks to the blabbering of her doctor, and they are excited about it. Terry discloses she does not want to keep the baby as she wants to focus on her career. But those old fellows don't seem happy with her decision. They take her to her room where they have been keeping the cradle of babies for decades. They propose a deal. She has to give birth to the baby for them, and in return, they will help her rise as a star. The entertainment industry works on relationships, and they have those relations. Terry's greed for fame persuades her to accept this deal. At night, she seems to have trouble sleeping and dreams a nightmare where a cult doing something notorious. Even when she opens her eyes, she feels someone is nearby. But pulling back her blanket, she sees there is no one but her room's door is open. She can hear footsteps coming from outside. She gets up and lights up the corridor to see Granny Gardenia in her apartment. She blabbers something that she has to end all this stuff. She rushes forward and attacks Terry with a pair of scissors. Terry dodges her attacks and locks herself in the room. Suddenly, she hears Gardenia moaning outside, so she opens the door to see Granny suffering from a heart attack. She notifies others and they take her to the hospital. The old couple barges into Terry's apartment. Granny goes to the kitchen to fill her tea with sugar. Meanwhile, Old Man informs Terry that Gardenia is in a coma. But thanks to her quick action, Gardenia is still alive. Terry tells them that Gardenia intruded on her apartment and ran after her for her life. But they don't seem to be concerned about this fact and ask her to forget Gardenia's actions. She is losing her marbles due to her age. They both take their leave, thanking her for the sugar. Terry smells something off. She goes to the kitchen and finds a secret door to a passageway. She follows the passage and ends up in an apartment of Gardenia. Here she happens to get her hands on a book that has different types of information, including a picture of a horny figure. Suddenly, she hears someone coming there, so she quickly follows the passage and returns to her apartment, hiding the book in a container. In a rehearsal of the stage performance, they decide to select Blondie to perform in the spotlight. But a strange thing happens. When she is standing still, her ankle twists and she falls to the ground. It's not end yet. Her arms and legs also twist as if someone is forcefully doing it. She is taken to the hospital, and the news comes that she is not in a stable state to perform. So Alan appoints Terry to play a role that Blondie was going to perform. The next moment, we see Granny doing Terry's haircut, and the inspiration is Terry's mother. Terry accepts that whatever Granny said about Alan is true. He has been a lucky charm in her career life. For some reason, Granny becomes aggressive and accidentally nicks her ear, but she does not care and says she is always true. Terry goes to rehearsal and dances along with her crew in a tacky costume. After rehearsal, she locks herself in her room and wipes her weird makeup. Suddenly, she looks at the mirror and sees her belly bulged out. Her baby is moving and shows a creepy face. But in the blink of an eye, her belly comes back to a normal shape. She gives a call to her doctor and informs him that she is not feeling normal. Something is wrong with her or her baby. Doctor suggests she comes to him for an examination. She might be going through perinatal hysteria. She cannot stand his nonsense and hangs up his phone call. She reads the book that she brought from Gardenia's apartment. There are images related to the pendant those old guys gave her. Moreover, an image that portrays a woman giving birth to a devil. At the same time, Granny knocks on her door, but Terry doesn't open it. Though Granny has a spare key, the chain lock prevents her from entering. Granny has come to invite her to dine at Jiffy Ground, but Terry, terrified of her, refuses the offer. Without saying much, Granny quietly takes her leave. She also removes the suspicious pendant and leaves her apartment. Terrified, she manages to escape safely and begins researching Joan Sebelsk. Turns out, she also worked for a stage play. So Terry goes to visit the production house where she worked. The manager also does not know the whereabouts of Joan. She vanished from Earth 6 months ago, though they still have her belongings. Terry looks at her things and finds a Bible with underlined lines related to Satan, but for some reason, her hand that carries the Bible burns down. She visits the nearby church and feels excruciating pain in her belly. A sister approaches, worried about her health condition, and Terry begs her for help. She shows her the book with horrible pictures and tells her she got it from someone in Branford, her apartment building. Sister reveals a horrifying truth about the building. It's been a rumor for generations that there are Satan worshippers gathered and made that building their home. The book is their scripture. Terry shows her the picture of Joan, and Sister knows her too. They came here to repent, but those witches did some ungodly things to her. She left in the middle of the night and was hit by a bus in an accident. Those evildoers' leader claimed he had conjured a devil, and he left his son and heir. Suddenly, Terry feels pain in her belly. Sister understands those evildoers have chosen her as Devil's son. Terry goes with Anne to the back alley doctor for an abortion. Just as doctor begins her treatment, Terry unconsciously kicks her with force, pushing her against the wall. Strangely, something unsightly starts to happen with the doctor. Terry leaves the clinic in a hurry, followed by Annie. She now clearly understands what happened to Blondie and Gardenia. Is all those Satan worshippers doing? She plans to fight with this alone without dragging Anne along. She goes back to Branford and sees Granny going to the basement. She follows her down and reaches a suspicious place. Alan is also there and reminds her it's the place where she was impregnated. He approaches her to touch inappropriately while saying she wants to be in the spotlight, but she is actually in the dark. She can't stand him and stabs in his guts, murdering him right there. Suddenly, a demon shows himself, and looking at him, she clearly remembers what happened that night. The old couple and others were gathered around her to do some ritual, and the demon was also with them. She starts running away from the demon and goes to the first floor to run out of the building, but the receptionist has closed the door. Without any other choice, she goes to her own apartment. That sweet couple is already there waiting for her. Terry picks up a knife and points at them, saying she has learned their true identity and they are evil. Granny reminds her the deal that she was nothing before coming here, and they got her everything. But Terry cancels this deal. She points a knife to her belly to end this child, but for some reason, she cannot move her arm to stab herself, and she collapses to the ground, writhing in agony. Grandpa reveals his past, that those so-called good people beat his father to death just because he had black and mesmerizing power. They conjured a devil with black power, and now Terry is the carrier for the devil's son. Granny exposes she is not carrying Alan's son, but the devil's. They both take her into a trust that she is not alone anymore. They are a family, and she was born to play this role. Her child saw the depth of her ambition. He would change her world and every soul would know her name. She seems to comply with their reasoning for some reason. They take her to their apartment where Satan's cult is gathered. Granny puts the pendant around Terry's neck, and Grandpa raises a toast to Satan. They congratulate Terry and celebrate their Lord is going to be born soon. She gets along with them and performs her last dance in the middle of the gathering. She gives a hug to Granny and tells her she is right. While she dances and lowers everyone's guard, she goes to the window and falls from the top floor of the building. She dies along with the death of their Lord. It was her last dance and she made a fool of them, thinking she was one of them. Police reach there and investigate eyewitnesses. The old couple walks to the crime scene and sees another blondie being interviewed. Their eyes tell they have decided who will be their next victim.